Welcome to Pictures of the Past, Picture the Future, an Earth Week presentation. Brought to you by Bruce Power, Innovation at Work, and produced by the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. Welcome to Earth Week, brought to you by Bruce Power and the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. I'm here today with John Bittorf. John is presently the Water Resources Coordinator, aka the Water Guy, with the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority. His programs include flood forecasting and warning, dam management, watershed monitoring and reporting, groundwater monitoring, surface water monitoring, which includes benthic sampling and identification. Over John's 30-plus years with Grey Sauble, he's been involved in tree planting programs, forest management, delivered water quality improvement grant programs, reviewed permit applications for watercourse alterations, and completed fish habitat reviews on behalf of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. John is constantly looking for new cost-effective ways to expand his programming. And John, I'd like to ask you at first, can you tell me a little bit about the place you've chosen for our interview today?
Thanks, Mike. You asked me about a place in Bruce County that I visit quite often and tend to have a good history with. So Allenford is a site where I do a lot of monitoring there. I monitor both water quality and benthic, which is the little critters that live in the stream bed. I also monitor stream flow there. We have a stream gauge that we share with Water Survey of Canada. They set it up and they look after the equipment in there, and we have access to it. One of the reasons we have that is Allenford is prone to flooding, so we need to keep a close eye on the water levels in the springtime, especially the ice cover. And sometimes the ice will jam and cause backwater to flood some of the houses that are close to the river. So that's I spend a lot of time there just making sure everybody's safe and that the system is clearing properly.
Excellent. We're not actually here at the Sauble River today. The video you're seeing in front of you, I took and shared with John, and it's what we're discussing. Unfortunately, due to the stay-at-home order, I'm coming to you from the museum, and John's coming to us from home. However, I saw this. I saw the difference in the river levels going there. I drive past it every day on my way to work, and I've stopped and looked numerous times. And when I was there to take this video, it wasn't that high, but it was moving fairly quickly. When I was there, probably 3 weeks before, it was at least at least 5 feet higher, and some big chunks of ice moving through. So absolutely, I see what you mean. How you really need to keep a close eye on it.
It's unfortunate you got pictures of cloudy water on your trip yesterday. That's a normal spring runoff, and we're trying to remove as much of that sediment as possible.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because it's agricultural country.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed in your videos was the foam. So the foam that was in the water is probably from the breakdown of organic material. It won't be from soap and stuff like that. So that's a natural source of foam.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of it in the fall when you have leaf droppage and things are breaking down in the rivers, like the Sydenham River in Owen Sound. Below the mill dam, we'll have a lot of foam just because of all organics that have fallen into the river and are starting to break down. So it's yeah, I get that question a lot at work. Why is it so foamy in the river?
Can you make the river not foamy and not brown? Well,
yeah, no, that's natural. That's fine. You can have that. That's something about Allenford from sampling it for the years. I've noticed a decrease in algae in the summertime at the bridge. It's a water course we can see improve.
I've shared some photos with John from the Bruce County Archives, and we have a lot of photos that were shared with us from a flood in Allenford in 1929. Having a look at some of these photos from the 1929 flood, John, what do you see when you look at these photos?
Oh, I see some really good flooding. Fortunately, I don't think we've had a flood that bad since then. Obviously, we didn't have any kind of monitoring going on to get an estimate of the flow. And it's fortunate that most of the community wasn't quite developed at that point. So, but yeah, that was some pretty good flooding, and the pictures are very interesting.
Now, our photographs here only go back as far as photography, of course. imagine back before photography was a thing, and before, even if we go back to like Allenford is a historic site, not just from an ecological perspective, but also from a historical perspective. It's the site of a signing of one of the major treaties for area. But if we go back to before there were settlers, before there was a community at Allenford 500 years ago, what do you think the flooding, the levels, the ecosystem around the river in that area would have looked like at that time?
I'd imagine most of the area was forest cover, except for meadows and wet areas. The flooding would likely be a lot less, as the runoff would be less. The trees and the natural features absorb the rainfall and the snow melt. They hold the snow on the ground longer, so it wouldn't be as flashy as it is today. Basically, because we've removed a lot of the trees and we've encouraged as much drainage as possible to get to the watercourse. So, and we wouldn't have had bridges that would have trapped the ice. So that's part of the problem in Allenford as well.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, what do you picture a place like this, or other spots along the Sauble River and along our rivers in Bruce County, looking like if we go forward into the future? What's an ideal water course of the future for from a conservation perspective?
It's tricky because Bruce County has a very diverse topography and landscape. So the northern portions, you'll see the Rankin system with small lakes, lots of wetlands, lots of forest cover.
Hmm.
More of the agricultural areas are in the southern part of Bruce County. So I'll speak to that because it's probably the furthest from being natural as you can be. We're seeing a lot of farmers more conscious of their impacts on the water courses, so they are starting to leave more buffers along the systems. Tree planting, if there's an area that they're not going to farm anymore, they will plant it in trees. We're also seeing cover crops left on the fields over winter. So in the springtime, we have less runoff happening from the fields. So it's as the science gets better, as the information gets better, the farmers are trying to reduce their impact wherever possible.
Absolutely. And this is a really interesting spot where we get some overlap between some of the things that you're talking about with water conservation and Yarmo spoke about with wildlife and the ecosystem's benefits for wildlife, and also Christine is going to talk about soil health. Um, each of you talking about tree cover near water features. Yarmo spoke about the Rankin River system as well, and about tree cover coming closer to the shores of Spry Lake in the time since it's been since there's been as much farming in and around the Rankin River system, and its benefits to freshwater fish. How the shade over the water gives them the cool water that they need for spawning and for and for habitat. It's really interesting to see that common ground. Now, an interesting thing that comes out of this is we do have a economy that's dependent on farming in a lot of the county, and there is that balance that needs to be struck between ecosystem restoration and farming. And I appreciate what you said about how farmers are a lot more cognizant, a lot more understanding of uh, of using the land in a way that's sustainable. Uh, where do you see the balance? Is it should we be focusing on renaturalizing areas? Should we be encouraging new farm development, or is there a balance somewhere in between?
I see the balance really coming with the buffers, like along the water courses. Um, it's just uh, it's a feature that also provides wildlife habitat. It filters the water that flows through it, protects the stream banks and the fish habitat if you're leaving the livestock out of the water courses.
Mhm.
And putting trees along those buffers definitely benefits the water course as well. One thing I see that's out there, the farmers are using a lot more technology, and they're starting to discover that not all their land is producing at an economical rate. So they're starting to retire areas that are not producing for them. So I see more of that down the road, that we're going to see more pockets of areas that are converted for wildlife or tree cover. We've got some endangered species like bobolinks that need open cover. So it's it's working that way, and I think most farmers, if they can afford it, they will do it. So and if the community can help them, then that's just another bonus.
Mhm. So another point of balance is between recreational uses. I'm an avid recreational user of water. I honestly, I thought about trying to do this interview on video from my canoe, but I wasn't super confident that I would have a solid signal throughout. Um, what do you see as the balance between, especially in the northern part of the county, um, between using water for recreational purposes and preserving our shorelines and preserving our health of our aquatic ecosystems?
That's another struggle. Most areas that are developable, that can be developed, have been developed. So there's more pressure on areas that are marginal.
Hmm.
So that's where the Conservation Authority comes in. We try to protect those areas from development if it's can be moved to somewhere else. Another problem we're going to be experiencing even more, especially on the Bruce Peninsula, is the tourism. We're going to see more and more people coming up this way because we have some beautiful water resources and lakes and wildlife to view. So we're out of balance with that right now. We're overwhelmed at this time, so we need to find a balance with that so that we're not destroying what we have.
For our audience today, mostly you're speaking to grade 6 students. I know we've got one grade 4 or 5 class that's joining us as well, and a few others that might check in here and there. Um, Obviously, we don't have any farmers and we don't have any tourism operators on the call, but we have kids that want to make a difference. What would you suggest to them? What can they do to help make the water and the aquatic ecosystems where they live healthier, and healthier for the long term? What changes can they make, and what things can they do to help out?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it there, is doing something in their own backyard, in their own community. So volunteering anything within the community that is going to help these resources. Could be something simple like picking up litter on Earth Day, or it could be a tree planting project that's been planned in advance because you need to buy the trees from somebody.
Mhm.
Um, but it's actually wanting to do something for your community. And if you want it more for the natural environment, then working along streams, cleaning those up, they're kind of the indicator of health in our area. If the stream's clean and clear and cold, and it's got brook trout in it, then that's usually a good indicator that the ecology in that area is doing well.
Excellent. So hopefully some kids will get a chance to get out and do that this very day if they're after watching the video, and help make our local aquatic ecosystems even just a little bit healthier. Thanks so much for joining me today, John. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to having you join us on the panel discussion, and hopefully we'll have some good questions come in from our students who are watching.
Thanks, Mike.